What do you think about the shift from, because when you first started there, it was the Mellow era, but
Mhm.
there was some management turnover, coaching turnover, the
Mhm.
carousels, and now in
Yep.
this Leon era, we're seeing more process, more building, more patience, and a sustainable team build here. What do you think
Right.
about that from the time you started to now?
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you win, right? Guys are not gonna get fired. They're gonna get extended. They're gonna get second contracts when you talk about management and coaches. And they preach everybody around the league preaches stability, preaches everybody kind of being tied in the same direction, rowing in the same direction. And I think by and large, you've seen that here in New York, professional relationships, organic relationships that go years back. I think the Knicks have really benefited from that, from Leon Rose and the group. So, look, who knows what happens this season? Big year for them, obviously, but to date, they've done a good job.
With Leon being here, what do you think from your observation? What do you think has been his biggest strength in building this thing?
Yeah, I think he listens to the people around him, but ultimately it's his decision. And my understanding is that that's never changed. That's never wavered. And so I think when you have that kind of a process where you're open to hearing things out, but ultimately everybody knows that it's your call, I think it makes the work easier. And I guess what I would say is uh, trades have been solid. I mean, you look back, go back to the Derrick Rose deal.
Mhm.
Go back to the Josh Hart deal when we were
Yeah.
in Studio SNY.
Mhm.
OG. We'll see about Bridges. You know, he that's where Leon really put his
Yeah.
chips all in the middle of the table with the
Yeah.
Bridges trade. And so I would expect McHale to have a good year this year under Mike Brown. We'll see. I don't think you could judge that trade off one season, but I think the trades overall have been solid. And then, Brock Aller and those guys with the cap, just maneuvering around the cap and figuring out ways to build out the roster amid this second apron era has been impressive.
And that's what I like. I feel like it's well thought out. There's no panic. Yes, you have to take risks, but I think by and large, in their tenure, 5, 6 years in now, they've been more calculated than not.
Hmm.
And I'm with you. I'm not ready to grade the Bridges trade just yet. I think it was a worthwhile move to make in terms of trying to up their ceiling a little bit, Towns as well. But overall, I like the process. And it seems to me, at least from the outside looking in, that Leon does, as you say, hire the competent people, but also the buck stops with him. He's going to make that final decision. I think Dolan's kind of giving him that leeway as well.
Yes, yeah, and I think from my understanding is Dolan ever since Phil, he's been hands off. You guys make the decisions, but I think that he's from what I've heard, just been excited about this team, this product, and has been a little bit more. I don't want to say involved because I know Knicks fans go crazy with that, but just I guess enthusiastic and in there
Yeah.
with this team and the way it's gone the past couple of years. So, but yeah, ultimately Leon's call, and you saw that with Tom Thibodeau. Yes,
Mhm.
Jim Dolan supported the decision. Yes, some players just supported the decision, but ultimately it was Leon Rose's decision to make.
What did you make of them landing Mike Brown after the entire process?
Yeah, it's not who they targeted. You know, they Jason Kidd, a couple other Chris Finch, all these guys under contract, even Ime Udoka. But I think that the process was messy. Asking teams for permission, that upsetting teams. Then some of these teams having to go in their pocket and extend the coach. I would be surprised if Jason Kidd doesn't get an extension at some point from all this. So the process was messy. But landing on Mike Brown, I remember talking to somebody who'd worked with Mike at a previous stop the day he got hired.
Mhm.
And they said, look, of the coaches that these guys were talking to, coaches available, he's probably the best option. And so you could look at it that way. It wasn't their number one, number two, maybe not number three pick going into it. But of the pool available, I think they got a very quality head coach.
Yeah, and with him, I don't think you can judge this thing when people ask me, "What do you think about the move?" I'm like, man, I don't think I can have an opinion until after the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's all said and done.
Right.
You know,
Right. That's exactly what it is to me too. Because I mean, just look at where this team left off. Conference Finals. Tom Thibodeau, flaws and all, gets them there for the first time in 25 years.
Mhm.
So no matter who they hired, Mike Brown or somebody else, that coach was coming in with high expectations to meet. I mean, how do you justify the move if you don't make the conference finals, make the finals? How do you justify the firing? So that's maybe a little bit of a reductive way to look at Mike Brown. Maybe it's a little bit unfair to him, but that's the situation he stepped into here. Expectations are sky high. Finals would be a successful season if you're looking at it that way. And this year with the injuries in the East, it seems like there's a pathway there for the Knicks if they can stay healthy.
What did you make of some people applauded the move, but there are a lot who are out on it. They say, "Hey, Tibbs, two games away from the finals. I mean, what's going on here?" They had some other naysayers, throwing mud in the process, the same old Knicks. But then I look at the goals that they had going into the search and looking for more collaboration, looking for someone who's going to get the coaching staff involved and the medical team and hiring player development. What did that say to you about Leon and their goals to want to improve, not just at the coaching level, but organizationally, that synergy overall?
Yeah, you know what? Tom Thibodeau had a big voice in personnel decisions. They didn't Knicks didn't end up doing everything he wanted to do, but he mattered in that process big time. And just go back to maybe year two where Leon Rose could have fired Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks were struggling. He chose not to. He stuck with his guy. He put everything on the table for him. He could have done the same this time around. He didn't. I think there were some maybe minor fissures there in that connection. And so maybe that's some of the reasons why they went out and tried to do what they did in terms of collaboration, communication between the front office and the head coach. But look, the bottom line is the bottom line. Tom Thibodeau won. He got you to the conference finals, and that's where you're judged, to me, going into this season.
Yeah, and now it's as we move into another year where now they're a legitimate contender. And that aura of invincibility that everyone once had, you're losing a couple chinks in the armor.
Yep.
Leon with the Bridges trade.
Yep.
With the move for Tibbs, even a Brunson with the questions. Hey, can they build around him? Is this a legitimate team with him at the helm? I'm interested to see how they navigate that pressure. Bridges' new contract. Everybody's under the gun here going into this season where the expectations are going to be through the roof.
Absolutely, and they. In the statement I think they put out after the Thibodeau firing, they said singular goal is winning a championship, and obviously that's every team's goal, but that's where the bar is. And just speaking of ownership too, I think that's where the expectation is. This is a championship team, and nothing won't settle for anything less, and that's part of why we saw the moves they made. But yeah, that's where it is, and it hasn't been there for a long time, right? When's the last time you went into a season, having a legitimate thought that this Knicks team could make the finals? We're going back
maybe
to the
95.
90s. Yeah,
maybe 95.
Yeah,
especially the way 94 ended. You're like, oh, we got to get right back there.
Yeah,
Jordan's still out. We got to get back to it.
Exactly. So it's been that long. So that, to me, speaks to the job that everybody's done so far under Leon Rose. But stakes are very, very high coming into this year.
Yeah, no question about it. What did you feel? How did you feel about the way the offseason shook out, getting Yabusele, getting Clarkson in there? A couple more spots left to be filled. But what did you think about those acquisitions so far?
Yeah, look, when you can get Clarkson on a minimum, that's a great pickup. When you can get Yabusele where they got him, I thought a lot of teams thought he was going to get more than what he ended up getting in New York going into the offseason. So that to me seems like a win. Obviously, these guys have to perform to their previous performance, to their previous level that they've established. But if they do that, seems like some very good signings, some shrewd signings. They're up against it with the second apron. They got to get creative in terms of adding to this team in the future. But for where they are and for what it was, you needed depth. You went out and got two players who have shown, Yabusele particularly last season, that they can produce off the bench.
Yeah, Clarkson, much needed firepower. And they're very fortunate to get him because, if Utah doesn't waive him, he's not necessarily a vet min guy. He's probably more in that taxpayer level.
Yep.
So I think to be fortunate to get a guy like that when the pool was slim, and other guys guys like a Luke Kennard, he still went to the Hawks for $10 million. I mean, he got major bag. So I thought they were fortunate to be able to upgrade the bench a bit and get a guy like a Clarkson and then like Yabusele as well.
So yeah, I think just what they've been saying to people that I've been talking to recently is maybe we keep it open, or maybe we, instead of having a guaranteed vet minimum deal, maybe we keep it non-guaranteed, have guys compete in training camp for that spot. I know that there's a desire for a ball handler
Yeah.
in that
Yep.
position. That's why Ben Simmons, part of why Ben Simmons was there was interest in Ben Simmons. Somebody who can really put the ball, have the ball in their hands, because Miles McBride, um, fantastic player, but probably at his best off the ball,
Sure.
right? So who's that guy who's behind Jalen Brunson as a pure ball handler? I think that's part of what they're looking for. And so if I'm guessing that the deal that they signed this veteran to would not be guaranteed, because if it was going to be guaranteed, it would have been done already.
Yeah.
And so I think they will keep that spot open, and there's going to be competition in training camp in the preseason to see who ends up beating everybody else out and starting the regular season on the roster.
To me, that's their biggest vulnerability right now. It's that spot because knock on wood, Cap goes down for any amount of time. And Jalen Brunson, I would have to assume they're going to have Clarkson run that backup unit. Maybe it's Hart if he comes off the bench, and I'll ask you about that in a bit. But behind that, there's no real solid backup point guard option established. Kohler came in, he got his minutes last year, bit struggled this year in the summer league. We'll see what Mike Brown thinks about him, but it'd be hard for me to think that they would trust him in that role just coming in at training camp.
So yeah, I think, yeah, to your point, with if it is an open competition, Kolek, look, he can have a huge training camp. He could have a huge preseason and put himself in position for that role. But I think generally, when you are trying to go where the Knicks are trying to go, it's harder to have an inexperienced player as who's going to get major rotation minutes. So that's probably one strike against Kolek, but he could certainly come in, light things on fire, and take that spot. I think Malcolm Brogdon is a guy who had been under some consideration too. I don't know where he's going to end up, but maybe he's a guy who comes into camp. But it's going to be interesting because you're asking a Malcolm Brogdon, you're asking a guy to come in on a non-guaranteed deal where this guy, established himself in the league as a very, very good player, and you're seeing it elsewhere too with Russell Westbrook probably having to accept less money, and
Yeah.
it's a sign of where things are financially for these teams. Who can you convince to come in on a non-guaranteed deal and tell them, hey, you got a shot to earn the job that's been established? It's a tough dynamic.
Yeah.